7. Baroness Bennett of Manor Castle.
My Lords, I beg leave to move Amendment 57 that appears in my name, and will speak also to 58 and 59, also in my name, and very briefly to the others in this group. And I begin by thanking the noble ladies Baroness Parmenter and Baroness Hayman of Alec for offering their support for 57 and 58. Just to look at the others in this group for a second, we of course haven't heard the introductions yet, but just to say that I look forward to hearing all of the movers' introductions to these, but I think Baroness Jones of Whitchurch identifying the necessity of the FSA having the adequate resources is something we so often butt up against in this House and see the government failing to deliver on its legal requirements. And I think also the noble lady Baroness Hayman of Alec's Food and Feed Register probing amendment, the Minister's answer will be very interesting. And I also think we should owe a special vote of thanks to the noble Lord Rooker doing the sterling Sherpa work, as I understand it, for the Delegated Powers and Regulatory Reform Committee. But coming back to my 3 amendments, in some ways these do rather overlap with the next group we're going to come to in terms of being able to regulate to ensure that we can trace and identify so-called precision-bred organisms and products from them. These and labelling very much go together. But I think it's interesting if we look at some of the public views on this. The Food Standards Agency study titled Consumer Perception of Genome-Edited Foods, published in July 2021, found that 77% of those questioned said it would be very important when buying a food item to know that it had been precision bred. It was very important to have this knowledge before purchase. We can't label them unless we can trace them. And so we have here the question of giving public certainty. Those who wish to promote this technology and the release of this technology, if they are going to get public acceptance, there has to be that traceability. If we think about what's happened with so many issues with our food system, and I think back to the horse meat scandal, for example, if there's not the traceability, people don't have the trust, and people now expect that traceability. And I think it's also worth pointing out, as the Soil Association briefing on this bill points out, not to have mandate traceability or labelling risks a major barrier to UK trade. The government has been saying, oh, well, we're expecting the EU to update accordingly. Of course, we don't know what will happen in the EU. It may well adopt a more restrictive scientific approach to defining which organisms might not be considered as GMOs. So this would be both disastrous for exports and, as the noble lady Baroness Parmenter raised earlier, the issue in the internal market and the relations between the nations. If there's not mechanisms in place to ensure traceability and separation, organic businesses in particular are likely to suffer severe disruption or even complete refusal from the EU or other countries to import products. Now, I would point out that I'm aware that noble lords may think when they walk into a UK supermarket that they're not really seeing that much organic produce. If, of course, they walk into a supermarket in many continental countries, they will find vastly more organic products, and that is an increasing determined part of the market. And so this is a really key issue, and some of the farmers who are doing most of the most innovative, exciting agroecological steps are, of course, our organic farmers. So, my lords, we've got here 3 amendments, the first 2 being the perhaps slightly dreaded may versus must. The first one says there must be regulation. I think it's very clear there is public desire for that and a very strong argument if you only want to argue from money. The second is may-must is there must be marketing authorisation and securing traceability. And then in 59 we essentially come back to risk assessments, which revives the debates I think we've already had, so it's perhaps not worth going back to them at great length, but the noble Lord Winston's contribution, the first one today, was, I think, the issue of risk was raised very, very clearly and stressed there. And I do just particularly in the line of Amendment 59, following on to a degree from the noble Lady Baroness Parmenter's last question, where's the precautionary principle gone? I'd very much like the Minister to set out where the government actually places the precautionary principle now. It would be very interesting to know.
Amendment proposed.